I want to turn it back to Caleb real quick. Charles, you're a Midwesterner. You have you ever been to the Wiener Circle in Chicago?
I have not. That was the first time.
Okay.
I lived in Chicago for 8 years. I have no idea what this place. Never been. No.
Okay. So the Wiener Circle is one of the greatest slices of Americana there is. It's on Clark between Fullerton and Diversey. So like Clark and Wrightwoodish, if that means anything to you, 2600 North, okay, in Lincoln Park. And it's one of those late night hot dog stands. No one goes to the Wiener Circle at noon on a Tuesday for lunch, okay? You go there after a night on the town. A lot of young people living in Lincoln Park. I used to be one of them when I came out of college. You've been pounding old styles all night, and then you go to the Wiener Circle for a dog or a burger and fries late at night because that's what you do. But the Wiener Circle is unlike any other place because they curse at you and they want to be cursed at. And so drunk kids walk in and you stand there and you go, hey, give me a bleepity, 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 bleep. And then the people behind the counter curse right back at you. And if you don't know what's going on, you are stunned. Like, what is this? I took my brother and his future wife there many years ago, 30 years, 25 years ago. The look on her face, her jaw hit the floor. I mean, there was also like a rat the size of an armadillo going down the alley and crossing Clark. It actually looked both ways before it crossed the street. The thing was the size of an elephant, but that's another story. If you go in there, Charles, and just say, hey, give me a hot dog, they curse you out and say, there's no hot dog on the menu. It's a bleeping char dog. Order it right. Long story short.
Andrew, I clearly missed this. I clearly missed this because I lived in Chicago in my 30s. It had to be because I was in my 30s, right? Like maybe my 20s, I would have.
You could still go. So you saw the videos there on the screen. And if you're listening to the podcast, let me explain it. Get to the point, Andrew. The Wiener Circle promised free hot dogs for everybody on Tuesday if Caleb threw 4 touchdowns. And then Caleb threw 4 touchdowns. So there was a line around the block. And then up the block, and then down the block, and then around the block, all to get into the Wiener Circle this afternoon. And the Bears posted video because they leaned into it as well. The place is an institution. But all the videos the Bears posted have no sound because you can't possibly post the audio. Look, there's Staley, the Bears mascot. Staley has never been cursed at like he was cursed at today. Okay. On the worst loss at Soldier Field, Staley has never heard the language like he heard today at the Wiener Circle. I wish I could have been there for this.
Andrew, it's easy enough to hear expletives online. I think they can just go ahead and do the audio. It's okay. I think people will be okay. If you go there, you know what you're getting.
Not on the official Bears team account. It's got to be fan friendly. It's got the shield. You can't. Charles, I listened to some of the Wiener Circle account posted audio, like the official account of the hot dog stand. I'm going to just warn you. If you go listen to it, warn your wife.
I'm sending Dawn immediately. As soon as I'm off the show.
That's all I'm going to say. Coming up next, how do we feel about the Chiefs offense? Also coming up next, how do we feel about Kirk Cousins being called upon in the fourth quarter on Sunday? I'll tell you what, if I was Raheem Morris, there was no way I would have done it. That's just me. That's Charles. I'm Andrew. This is Inside Coverage. It's Inside Coverage. Welcome back on Yahoo. A Tuesday here, turning the page from week 3 to week 4. And in week 4, Charles Robinson, there's a mildly significant game in the AFC. When you already think ahead to home field advantage, and yes, that is what we do. Remember that the Bills rallied and they stunned the Ravens week 1. And then the Bills also later get the Chiefs. But now the Chiefs and the Ravens face off this week. That game is in the late window in Kansas City. It is one of 4 games in the late window. And barring a tie, Charles, which, hey, could happen. You never know. Somebody is walking out of here at 1-3. Either Lamar Jackson, and we've talked about the Ravens already on this show, is 1-3, or the Chiefs are 1-3. And the Chiefs would be 1-3 considering that through the first 3 games, they have only allowed 56 points. That's it. But wait a minute, 56 points. How are they possibly 1-2 and possibly 1-3? Because by every single measurable metric, this is the worst Chiefs offense since Mahomes took over as the full-time starter. 21 points per game through 3. I'm talking through 3 games. The worst. Total yards per game, 315. The worst. Passing yards per attempt, they're under 6. They're at 5.9. The worst. First downs a game, 19. This is their worst. And I don't know that there is an obvious fix. Listen, I am never going to question Andy Reid. Okay, never. Matt Nagy, when he has been there with Andy Reid, they've been a pretty good tandem. But they don't have. I'm all for Brashard Smith. I would make him the number 1 back right now. That was discussed Sunday night on the broadcast, and the conversation was basically Andy said no, that's not going to happen when it came up during the production meeting. But you need some juice. You need somebody that could run away from people. Tyquan Thornton has been a nice find for a guy that the Patriots kicked to the curb after a relatively uneventful couple of years there in New England. I'd go pick him up in fantasy right now, but I don't know that it's enough. Maybe the Baltimore defense is going to be the elixir that fixes the Chiefs offense. And how about that sentence, saying it out loud? But I don't know where the obvious fix is for the Chiefs, and that's what concerns me.
Yeah, and I mean, there are problems here that are okay, sure, there's an obvious fix. Go get another right tackle. You can't do that right now.
But
right?
they paid Juwan Jones.
And
they can get out after this year.
It's just, I look at the scenario where offensively up front, I think the offensive line hasn't felt good in a couple of years now, right? And I don't think whatever fine-tuning they have done has not ultimately come to fruition in the way that they had hoped it would solidify that group. The running backs, as you said, it's not a running back on the roster who has more than I think like 92 yards. Nobody's broken 100 total in 3 games. Yeah,
Mahomes,
I think Patrick Mahomes has 125 yards
than all the others combined. Did you see the play on Sunday night where Pacheco turned the wrong way in the backfield?
Yes. Yeah.
Mahomes goes to check it down, and he throws it to the back.
Goes the wrong way.
Pacheco's the back. He's going the other way. He has his back to the line of scrimmage. He clearly got spun around and lost where he was. And you're like,
and he's a veteran, Andrew.
What are we doing?
That's the thing.
Yes.
Right. It's not a rookie out there. This is a veteran. This is a guy who's played in massive games. And we thought at this and done well. Yeah, absolutely. He's been a centerpiece back for them in stretches in the past. And I don't know what exactly has happened. And okay, so there's part of that. Why is the guy going the wrong way? There's communication problems. You have to wonder if there's some kind of breakdown between Nagy and the offensive players, or something going on in the scheme where players just aren't picking things up. Another thing that really, really alarmed me. We saw that incident where Travis Kelce and Andy Reid get into it on the sideline, and Reid kind of bumps him, right? And they're kind of jawing. They're going back and forth. And Reid gets asked coming off the field about it. And basically he said, we need some good. Hopefully that gives us some juice. And I was like, whoa, okay. This is, we're at this point now where you're basically confronting players, and not just any player. It's Travis Kelce, and it's happened before, but you're hoping that somehow it happened in the Super Bowl. Very, very, a lot of people talking about that. I remember the Swifties were all concerned about that one. And, but if the head coach, and it's Andy Reid of all people, is basically saying, we're flat, we're not playing with juice. One of the things that I think about is, you can say whatever you want about Eric Bieniemy, right? You can have your problems with Eric Bieniemy, but I knew when Eric Bieniemy was in that franchise as the OC, he coached those guys so hard. He was so confrontational. He would grind and go after guys. And part of me wonders if have we lost a little bit of that, a little of the fire that the Chiefs had in, from that gap, when Eric Bieniemy left the franchise to now. And I know there were drawbacks. There's this whole litany of other issues. But again, I always remember hearing that from inside the Chiefs, just about there was no coach who coached players harder inside that locker room and on that field than Eric Bieniemy. And now to hear Andy Reid basically say we need some juice and we're looking flat, and that's without even getting to the talent, the lack of talent in the skill positions. It's scary to me what's going on. And I've said it in the past, and I'll ask you, do you think Rashee Rice steps on the field? Frank Schwab said he believes Rashee Rice will come in after missing 6 games. Everything will change. It'll be the same old Chiefs, and we'll be eating crow by the end of the season. Do you believe that?
I do think it will certainly make them better, and I would never count this team out. They're going to have to go on the road, it seems, this year in the postseason, and I know we're 3 months away from that, but they're going to have to go win on the road, which they have done before, certainly. But the question of how many games can they win until Rice gets back to fix the offense. I remember last year, Charles, I saw them in person once. They came to Cleveland, and then they eked out a win against a Browns team that was in a spiral at that point. But the Browns hung tough. It was a bad weather game. It was raining, and the story was Taylor Swift going to be there because Travis was coming home to Cleveland? I mean, that was really the story of the game. But talking to people before they came to town, people that had already seen the Chiefs in person last year, the overwhelming opinion was it's the slowest team offensively that they had seen anywhere in the NFL. Like, so beyond slow. Now, Hollywood Brown was out. Hollywood is now back. Okay. So they do have that speed element. Brashard Smith, the rookie running back, SMU, is fast, but he's rarely on the field and he's not getting a heavy workload. Isaiah Pacheco is not a fast back. I mean, the running joke is he looks like a zombie. When he looks like somebody from The Last of Us, or it looks like a guy, it's all, everyone's got their line about he's running angry at the grass, whatever. Kareem Hunt, love him, but he's not going to run away from you. He's a goal line back for all intents and purposes. And Kelce did a lot of work in the offseason to get into better shape, but to also get more functional old man kind of quickness, right? Be better at the top of his route. Maybe not losing weight. He's not going to run a faster 40, but all these little things that he felt he needed to work on now that he's at an advanced age. But as the play calling caught up with that, you're not running a tight end screen to Travis Kelce anymore, and he's not going to go 60 yards. No one's running away from you on this team really other than Hollywood, and he's not the deep ball threat. He's not. He never has been. And Tyquan Thornton. Well, if your offense has to run through Tyquan Thornton now, that's a sentence no one ever thought they would say out loud. Travis Kelce can still play. He can still play, and he can still be the security blanket. He can still be the number one weapon. But your number one weapon is an underneath threat, is a choice route guy. And that does not lead to an explosion on the scoreboard.
So let me ask you this, Andrew. Would you, if you're running the Chiefs and you're sitting there and you're staring at this with the lack of speed, and you'll know, I think you'll have a general feel once Rice comes back and you get to the trade deadline, you'll have a general feel of kind of what you are, right? And you'll definitely know what's lacking. You'll know what the injury situation is. Do you say, let's go out at the trade deadline, let's maximize what we've got left? Because again, Kelce probably not going to be here next year. Offensive line's going to change again this offseason. The backfield will probably change next offseason. I think the skill, the wide receivers won't. So do you go and you make an acquisition or two and try to patch it up and get it right for one last shot? Or do you just acquiesce and go, no, we're keeping our assets, we're keeping our picks, and we're going to do what the Eagles did a few years ago after they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles? The Eagles went through a micro rebuild for a couple of years where they had to, acquire talent. They changed the way they drafted. So all of a sudden, Howie was like, I'm drafting all these guys from the SEC. This is what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to build. And then we will acquire certain guys, pay them, and we'll usher in younger talent. And that's how our river will keep flowing. Do you do the micro rebuild, or do you take the last shot and expend some assets and try to jam in one more Super Bowl appearance for the Chiefs.
I would try to jam one more in. Now it depends on who I'm acquiring and what I have to give up. But I think their defense is still good enough to win right now. And you have Mahomes, and if you have Mahomes in the defense, then you have a shot. Is Tyreek Hill going to fix your offense overnight? Tyreek Hill and Rashee Rice, does that fix you? I don't know. Are you going to go find a running back that's going to magically, be a workhorse? I don't think that you are. Those guys generally aren't walking around or sitting on the couch, and they aren't trade pieces generally this time of the year. I think, people say, well, the Dolphins should blow the whole thing up and get rid of Tyreek. I don't know that there aren't going to be many teams that want him with even more off the field stuff hanging out there. The Chiefs might be the one team that could stomach it. Even though it ended poorly, they're the one team. But what do you give up? And how much salary do you take?
Well, yeah, and those two things will affect each other, right? I mean, the more salary you take on, the lesser draft pick ultimately you give up. And
would you give up a day 2 pick? I wouldn't.
No. For Tyreek Hill? No.
So it's a day 3 pick, and how much money are you willing to eat?
I mean, whatever. I got to look at their cap situation right now. I don't have it right in front of me. I mean, I have to see how much cap they're trying to roll over into next season. But yeah, I mean, there's no way I would give up anything earlier than a day 3 pick. I mean, it's at this point, especially when you get to the trade deadline, and if Miami is bottomed out at that stage, you might just want Tyreek Hill off the roster, and whoever's willing to take him back in. Yeah, go ahead and take him. And as you said, the Chiefs already they have a history with him, right? The coaches know him, the players know him. You would probably say, let's try to capture lightning in a bottle here through the remainder of the season. He's just a rental to the end of the season, and then we part company in the offseason. And I also identified Miami. I said, look, try to pick their bones. Like, if you can get Devon Achane from the Miami Dolphins, which I doubt, but if you can,
I doubt.
See if that's available. See what else you could potentially get off of their roster, because the Miami situation to me feels like if they bottom out, I don't know that Mike McDaniel's there, and I don't know that they're not already talking about blowing it up and maybe even considering taking the asteroid strike of moving on from Tua,
which would be absurd here as well. All right, speaking of quarterbacks and contracts and trade pieces, we got about 2 minutes here at the end, Charles, to tap the base on what went down with the Falcons on Sunday. They lost. They got shut out by the Panthers. I mean, it's one of those scores where if you hadn't been watching the game, if you were watching a different game or doing something else with your family, maybe actually having a life on a Sunday, and you looked at that score, you thought it might be a misprint. Maybe there was a malfunction in your new iPhone. But no, that was the score. They shut them out like 30-0. It's absurd. Which isn't really the full story. To me, the most interesting thing is that Michael Penix, in the words of Raheem Morris on Tuesday, was off, wasn't himself. And so they put in Kirk Cousins to mop up at the end. Logically, you go, if it's 30-0, sure, I'll take my number 1 quarterback out and put in my number 2 quarterback. But in this case, their number 2 quarterback is an old man who's making $27 million, who is a legitimately valuable trade piece for that inevitable quarterback injury for a contender somewhere down the line in the next few weeks. If I'm Terry Fontenot, if I'm Arthur Blank, I'm going, excuse me, Raheem, this is just me. Why are you putting our best trade asset at risk? Why on earth would you do that? And maybe it's just, maybe I have a totally different opinion. I haven't heard anyone else say this. I would put him in bubble wrap. I would tell him to sit in a suite. I don't even want you near the sidelines, or you might get hurt if somebody, if Marcus Mariota Dan Quinn's you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's confusing. It is. But I have to wonder if Arthur Blank's not playing a part of this. Because when they kept Kirk Cousins, everyone you spoke to, whether it was inside the Falcons franchise, whether it was inside Kirk Cousins camp, whether it was inside other teams that were thinking Kirk Cousins would come free in the offseason, everything was about how Arthur Blank made the decision. No, I want to keep him. We will keep him as an asset, and we will figure things out as we move forward. I wonder if Arthur Blank is not sitting there and saying, maybe we don't want to trade this guy at this point. We're going to pay him. We've committed to paying him. We don't have teams out there that are going to line up and take on the amount of salary that we're going to ask them to take on, because we feel now we have leverage. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals and you're panicking now and you're saying, we have to do something, make a call on Kirk Cousins, the Falcons are going to ask, you're going to take a significant portion of Kirk Cousins' salary. Bengals aren't going to line up for that. And I think,
don't you have to protect I think the asset in case that call happens? I guess that's my point.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. That makes sense to me. It is confusing that you would put him out there at that stage and really lay that on the line. But again, I just wonder if this is not Arthur Blank maybe already sort of committing to, let's see where this goes with Michael Penix through the remainder of this season. Let's keep the veteran in place who we've already committed to paying, because we have not gotten that nibble at this point. And I don't think Arthur Blank Arthur Blank's very involved. He goes through film study after games. There's this, every coach that comes out of there will tell you stories about Arthur Blank wanting, to watch film with you, and you have to explain what's going on. What were the mistakes? Let's lay them out. Maybe this is an Arthur Blank move that we don't really fully understand in terms of the I don't want to say recommitment to Kirk Cousins, but at least the commitment that we may keep this guy because we feel like we need him through the rest of the season, and I don't want to go through a lost year.
Yeah, Arthur Blank's not the only owner that watches film, but he is certainly on the list of those that want an explanation as to the things that happen on game day. He's the man writing the check. And yeah, to your point, back when everyone in the league thought, oh no, Kirk Cousins is getting traded, you often heard, well, front office kind of sort of has to save some face here as well. Like, how do you go to the owner and say, hey, thanks for writing that $100 check that we insisted you write last year? We're just going to eat a lot of it, because that makes them look bad, like really bad.
Yeah, I mean,
how do you explain to the owner, hey, that beautiful house you built me? Yeah, you know what? We don't like it. We're going to move out. But you paid for it. Cool, thanks. Yeah, cool. And then it eventually turned to, well, okay, we'll just keep him. We're paying him anyway. Sure, but Penix is the guy. I still think Michael Penix is the guy. One bad game is not going to change that. The Michael Penix we saw on Sunday night, week 2, looked pretty good. I thought he looked pretty good, right? He can still be that guy. It's not all his fault that it went as badly as it did.
Yeah.
However, it was pretty ugly. I mean, the Carolina Panthers had a great fourth quarter week 2 in Arizona. I didn't think anyone thought they were going to take that great fourth quarter and the next week shut out a division rival, any division rival not named the New Orleans Saints. But it happened.
Yeah, and
all right.
And Andrew, let's be honest, every quarterback from, all these young quarterbacks have had lumps. The ones we love right now.
Absolutely.
Have all had lumps.
Absolutely. It's part of the job. I thought the conversation last night between Peyton, Eli, and Daniel Jones was good in that regard as well. All coached by David Cutcliffe, all had to learn on the job, all had a lot of failure. And I was thinking of that as well today with the whole conversation watching Brian Callahan's press conference, which was a bit awkward again. We're talking about Cam Ward here. He's the number 1 overall pick. It's after 3 games, we're already deciding that this operation is failing the kid. And we have to take away play calling. Well, Brian, what about your play calling? Do you not like? No, I'm good with my play calling. It works. I'm paraphrasing. That's not what he said. But he said, I have no problem with my play calling. Okay, well, so did someone tell you to give up the play calling? No, I kind of want to keep an eye on all the operation, which is a reasonable answer. I have heard that from other coaches. Like, hey, I want to call plays, but there are other fires that I got to put out in this building right now. So the most important thing for this team in this locker room is me to go put out those other fires. Somebody else can call plays.
Just make sure that when you're giving up, just make sure though, I will say, when you're giving up play calling, to make it look as feasible as possible, try to give it to someone who has called plays before. Right? Well, someone who has a...
Well, Hardigree did for 5 minutes. Five minutes with the Raiders. Or how many ever games that was in...
It was such...
that in 21 short, with the Raiders, I think?
I mean, that is...
Yeah.
It counts, I guess.
I think... We're going to look this up. Can we get research? Do we ever? I used to do that at NFL Network. Hey, research. Can you? Obviously, I'm sitting in my house wearing gym shorts.
Yeah, we don't.
Slightly different. I'm fairly certain that the Brandon Staley funeral, right, that Thursday night game where the Raiders blew the Chargers out of the building and it was ugly and uncomfortable, that Bo Hardigree was calling plays for the Raiders that night. I think he was. We got to look that up.
Hey, it goes on the resume if that was there.
Yeah.
I don't remember that Raiders team being a juggernaut on offense. I'll just say that.
No. It clearly was not. Although Trey Tucker had a big game that day, the kid from Cincinnati. Just because I remember I had to interview him on the field after the game. Anyway, that's how I remember games. Things like that. Oh, yeah, that time. And that flight was late and whatever.